Hi everybody, my name is AlisonB and I work at Trying Together, but I am also a storyteller, an artist, and a puppet maker. So since we're all in this together, I thought I would share some of my favorite stories and favorite play ideas and art ideas with all of you. And for my first series of videos, I picked the theme of architecture. I picked it for 3 reasons. Oh, first of all, do you know what architecture is? I'll give you a second to talk about it. Did you figure it out? Yeah, we're all inside of some architecture. In fact, we're stuck inside this architecture, our house. That's the first reason I picked the topic. The second reason is you might be going on walks in your neighborhood, and architecture is a really cool thing to focus on and talk about. If your children are very young, you can just look for shapes that they already know. Most houses are made of rectangles, triangles, and squares. If they're a little bit older, you can get more sophisticated and look for some different types of architecture like columns or arches. I'll talk more about that when we get to the art part. First, I want to share a story. And this is my very favorite children's book, which is probably also why I picked architecture first. It's called Iggy Peck Architect by Jan Beaty. And the awesome illustrations, you know, the pictures, are by David Roberts. This story is so much fun. I hope you enjoy it too. Get yourself in a nice comfy seat. Make sure you're ready to listen. And keep your eyeballs open too, because the illustrations in this story are so cool. Young Iggy Peck is an architect and has been since he was 2, when he built a great tower in only an hour using nothing but diapers and glue. Good gracious, Ignatius, his mother exclaimed. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. But her smile faded fast as a light wind blew past and she realized those diapers weren't clean. Ignatius, my son, what on earth have you done? That's disgusting and nasty. It stinks. But Iggy was gone. He was out on the lawn using dirt clods to build a great sphinx. And when Iggy was 3, his parents could see his unusual passion would stay. He built churches and chapels from peaches and apples, and churches from modeling clay. Sorry, temples from modeling clay. You could probably do some building with fruit too. I'm just saying. At dinner one night, to his father's delight, Iggy got a bright gleam in his eye, and out on the porch built the St. Louis Arch from pancakes and coconut pie. If you look really closely, there's another arch too. Dear Ig had it made until 2nd grade, when his teacher was Miss Lila Greer. On the very first day, she had this to say: "We do not talk of buildings in here. Gothic or Romanesque, I couldn't care less about buildings ancient or new." She said in her lecture about architecture that it had no place in grade 2. That might seem severe, but she was sincere, for when she was no more than 7, she'd had a great fright at a dizzying height in a building so tall it scraped heaven. On the architect's tour of the 95th floor, young Lila got lost from the group, and she was found 4 days later in a stuck elevator eating cheese with a French circus troupe. After that day, it's quite safe to say that she thought all building lovers were nuts. As a teacher, she taught that above all, one ought to avoid them, no ands, ifs, or buts. As you might guess, it would cause Iggy stress to hear such terrible talk. But he didn't hear because he was sitting in the rear building a castle of chalk. "You, Iggy Peck, your desk is a wreck. Tear down that castle right now. You will not build in here. Is that perfectly clear? Do I need to get Principal Howe?" How do you think that made Iggy feel from the look on his face? "No, ma'am," Iggy said, and he lowered his head, and his heart sank down to the floor. With no chance to build, his interest was killed, so now second grade was a bore. After 12 long days that passed in a haze of reading, writing, and arithmetic, Mrs. Greer took the class to Blue River Pass for a hike and an old-fashioned picnic. They crossed an old trestle to a small island nestled in the heart of a burbling stream, but they no sooner passed than the footbridge collapsed, and Miss Lila Greer started to scream, "We're trapped here, oh my, alas kids, goodbye." And her eyeballs rolled back in her head. She dropped to the ground with a faint groaning sound, luckily fainted, not dead. The class was amazed. They stood there quite dazed, uncertain of what they should do. But one bright young man was off hatching a plan, and it started with Miss Lila's shoe. Can you see the plan? Everybody's got a different job to do. Soon each lad and lass there at Blue River Pass were working together as one, and when she came to, Miss Lila Greer knew that something quite brave had been done. She looked in the air and saw hanging there a structure with cables and braces, and on the far side, gleaming with pride, were 17 smiling young faces. Boots, tree roots, and strings, fruit roll-ups and things, some of which we should not mention, were stretched ridge to ridge in a glorious bridge dangling from shoestring suspension. It all became clear to Miss Lila Greer as she crossed that bridge over a stream. There are worse things to do when you're in grade 2 than spend time building a dream. So now every week at Blue River Creek Elementary in second grade, all the school kids can hear, along with Miss Greer, how the world's greatest buildings were made. The weekly guest speaker, in t-shirt and sneakers, talks of buildings from Rome to Quebec. Of course, he's that guy who built towers from Pi, the brilliant young man, Iggy Peck. Isn't that book fun? I love it. Really love it. But if that's not your speed, there's a lot of other great books about architecture. I have some of them here. Maybe if you live near Pittsburgh, PA, like me, you have heard about that really famous house built by an architect outside of Pittsburgh. The house might have been built on a waterfall. Yeah. This is a story of the 3 little pigs, and it features an architect that looks a lot like the guy who built that amazing house. Yes, Falling Water. You know it too? Cool. There's also an architect who made some very unique buildings. Most of them can be found in Spain. His name is Gaudi, and this is a book about the work he did. I have a picture of one of his buildings. They're like nothing I've ever seen before. Really cool to read about him too. Maybe you think, insects could be architects, right? It is a fun book. Don't worry. If you're thinking, wait a minute, are girls architects too? Yes, they are. In this awesome book, you can read about female Muslim architect Zaha Hadid. It is also an awesome read. Next, I'm going to share some art ideas and some movement ideas that have to do with architecture. I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed sharing my story with you. I'm new at this, so excuse any mistakes I made. I'll see you soon.